Did you start out your homeschool journey with kind of this vision of how you were going to make your homeschooling so different from the public school because you're going to be able to focus on all of these amazing things that were outside of the traditional school system? And then a few weeks into it, or month into it, or even a couple years into homeschooling, you find yourself frustrated and overwhelmed because you can't seem to get past all of the things that you have to do for school in order to get to the things that you really want to do and want to focus on. Can you relate to that? I know I can. I have been there and I still struggle with this often. But today I'm going to be sharing with you how I kind of set up our weekly homeschool schedule to help find that balance between those things that we need to do for school and the things that I really want to focus on in our home. Hi guys, my name is Erin. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4 kids and we are in our 9th year of homeschooling. We've been doing it from the very beginning. This is the second in a 3-part series that I'm doing about easy homeschool planning. My first video in the series talked about how to set up a yearly calendar for your homeschool. In my next video, we're going to be talking about how to set up a daily routine to help your family thrive. But today we're going to be talking about how to create a weekly homeschool schedule that really helps your family to be able to emphasize the things that you find most important in your family to create that truly purposeful homeschool. If you're wanting to create a truly intentional homeschool, it really starts before you do any planning by clearly identifying your why, your reason for homeschooling. Why is it that you're doing this in the first place? What are your goals and your vision for your homeschool? By clearly laying out what it is you really find most important to your family and to your homeschool, that really can then help you to create a purposeful weekly routine and even a daily routine for your family. This is a critical step that is often missing in a lot of homeschools when we just kind of jump into homeschooling because we don't want the alternative and we don't have a goal and a vision and a plan for our own personal homeschool. And if that's something where you find yourself relating to that, I have a whole purposeful vision planning guide that you can get on my website. I will have a link to that in the description below if you need some help kind of identifying what that is for your family. Before we set up that schedule, we need to first figure out what it is we actually want to focus on and learn about in our homeschool. So as we kind of set this up, a key aspect to keep in mind is that your home does not need to look like a traditional school at home in order for it to be successful. You get to identify what success really means for your family. What are those things that are the most important, that get you up in the morning, that keep you trucking along on this journey even when things get hard? If you don't have that clearly identified for yourself, it becomes then so much easier to give up or feel overwhelmed or frustrated when things don't go according to how we envision them to be. True joy and peace in this homeschool journey is really found when you give yourself permission to let go of that traditional school mold and allow yourself the freedom to embrace life and learning together as a family and finding out what works best for your family and sticking to that no matter what other people are doing. Okay, so let's get to actually coming up with a plan for what your homeschool is going to look like for your family. Now, this is just kind of what I have done and what works for us, and I hope that it's a blessing to you as well. The way I like to organize my thoughts here is just by making a little chart that has a list of frequency in which I want to cover these topics. I just make a heading that says daily, 2 to 3 times a week, weekly, and then irregular or loop scheduling. Loop scheduling can be really great for a lot of those extracurricular type of activities or lessons that you want to incorporate but that aren't maybe part of that core academic block that you need to focus on. Now that you have this little chart made up, now you want to add in what your subjects are going to be that you actually want to cover. This is going to be everything that you want to focus on as part of your homeschool or even just child training atmosphere within your home. I personally like to focus on some aspect of language arts and math and reading every single day, and so those then will go into that daily category. A lot of the other subjects then I personally feel are things that can be rotated or done a little bit less frequently. This is really a way that allows you to free up some of the time during your homeschool week to be able to focus on those non-traditional school subjects. Some of those things are things like Bible or life skills or things that you might want to incorporate that maybe you don't necessarily have a curriculum for, but it definitely is something that is important to your family. If you're using an actual curriculum, one way to figure out where this might fit is just by looking at the number of lessons that are in that curriculum and then figuring out how often they that you need to do them throughout the year in order to either complete or almost complete it by the end of the year. I personally feel like it's important to keep in mind as well, though, that there are some subjects out there that there are curriculum options for that might create you a whole year's worth of lessons to really fill out every single day in order to finish that curriculum, but it might not be a core subject that really does need to be done every day. Over the years, I have even made like a history curriculum stretch 2 years instead of 1 year, just so that we could either spend a little bit more time diving deep on those topics or not feeling like it was something that we had to do every single day. Keep in mind that some subjects like language arts can be broken down into multiple other subjects. For example, language arts we do in some aspect every day. It can really be broken down into spelling, grammar, writing, and reading if that's something that your kids are still working on reading. Mine are already reading individually, so they have silent reading that they do every day. And then handwriting is one as well. We might do 2 of these subjects on a given day, but they each only get done maybe twice per week. By not trying to focus ourselves on having to do that reading, writing, spelling, math, grammar, history, science, all of those things every single day, that can be really, really overwhelming. So I have found it really helpful to then divide some of those subjects up that are non-core subjects into a couple of days a week versus doing them every single day. And that has truly made a world of difference in how much stress and pressure has been taken off of my shoulders, as well as how much more enjoyment is added into our actual homeschool day, where our kids don't feel so pressured to have to be doing school all day long. They have the freedom then to incorporate some of those other things into their learning and educational process that aren't necessarily done in a textbook or a curriculum format. So after you get all that curriculum in, think about other subjects that you want to teach. All of those non-traditional school subjects that you really want to focus on in your homeschool. Because here's the key, when we don't plan those and we don't schedule those are the things that will often get pushed to the back burner in lieu of focusing on the traditional school subjects that we start to feel bogged down and pressured to get them done. If we don't plan for it here, then we're often going to forget about it when we're actually putting our routine into place. Make sure that you schedule free time or independent play into your homeschool. I truly believe that we are doing a disservice to our kids if we are not allowing them that time to be children. So make sure you schedule that as time within your weekly schedule, or that is going to be something that gets pushed to the side when we get so focused on that rigorous education that we need to commit to, right? Our kids need that freedom and that time to just be kids. Another thing I do once I get these laid out here is to then figure out kind of an approximate time for how long it's going to take to get each one of these types of lessons done, so that then when we move on to actually creating a weekly schedule, we can figure out how long it's going to take us to do all of the things. So just make a little note if you think maybe math is going to take 45 minutes, you know, reading, you want to have your kids read for 20 minutes a day or whatever that is, just make a little note there so you can kind of help yourself to visualize that as you're coming up with your weekly schedule. Okay, so now you have all of those topics and ideas laid out on paper, what you want to accomplish in your homeschool. Now let's figure out how to fit that into an actual weekly schedule that helps you to be able to balance all of the things. But first, if you're getting value from today's video, will you please hit that like button and make sure you subscribe for more videos about homeschooling. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is to make yourself a chart. On this chart, you're just going to simply list across the top of the columns the days of the week that you plan to actually be doing school or some kind of lesson or learning in your home. Now you're going to start filling it in. In the initial stages, this does not need to be in the order that you plan on doing it within your homeschool. It's simply plugging into the specific days what you want to focus on each day. I do find that in order to create that purposeful homeschool schedule that we talked about, the key ingredient here is to start by filling out the extracurricular things that you are already committed to outside of your home. So fill out things like co-ops or lessons or nature groups or Bible studies or whatever it is that you might be doing actually outside of the home on any of your homeschool days. Fill those in first. And then the second critical part here is to now rather than going to your traditional school subjects that you have listed on here, plug in those things that you have identified that are the most important high value items that you want to focus on within your homeschool. So for you, maybe that is some of those traditional school subjects, or maybe that's something that is non-traditional, like Bible study or scripture memory or life skills, or things that you really just want to instill in your children. Once you have those in place, then start to plug in your traditional school subjects. If you are going to be doing some kind of loop schedule, you can kind of block in a loop schedule as a filler on each of those days that you want to incorporate some of those loop subjects. One tip is that I personally find it really helpful to have at least one day a week where you have a lighter school load, so that you can have days to plan appointments or errand days or trips to the library or field trips or all of those kinds of things, where that's not going to then sacrifice the time away from your traditional school subjects or your normal routine that you have planned out. A lot of people will do this on Fridays and call it Fun Friday or an unschool day. We've done that in the past. That is a great day then to, if you do it on Fridays particularly, to play catch up if maybe you weren't able to get to all of the lessons on the Monday through Thursday days. You can then make sure that you get things caught up on Fridays to fill in those gaps. Okay, now after you have all of those things kind of laid out, go back to that earlier chart where you noted the times that you were kind of estimating that each of these lessons were going to take, and add up for each day what that time commitment is starting to look like. As you're doing this, think about how many hours per day you actually want to be focusing on doing schoolwork or fitting in this learning into your home. Keep in mind here that you do not need to spend the amount of time that kids are normally in schools in order to get all of your schoolwork done, unless your state requires you to commit to a certain number of hours each day or throughout the school year. When we homeschool and have that one-on-one attention with our kids, we can truly get through so much more work so much more quickly, because we have that personalized education that allows us to be more focused and concentrated on what we're actually working on, which then leads to a lot less time actually doing schoolwork each day. I do have a video that kind of goes through a quick run through of how much time homeschooling actually takes in a given day, kind of broken down by different age groups, and I will link that in the description below if you're curious what that actually might look like for a normal homeschool family. As you figure out how much time each of those days are going to be committed to, you might see that there's an imbalance and you might need to do a little bit of shifting around. Go ahead and do that if that is necessary. Now that you have all of that done, the next step is to plan your actual daily routine so you can figure out how all of those pieces are going to fit together on a normal daily basis. And that is going to be what we talk about in my next video, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out when it is posted. If you want to learn more about how loop scheduling works, like I talked about earlier, make sure you watch this video here where I walk you through how I set up our loop schedule for last year's morning time and what that looked like within our family. Make sure you check out that homeschool vision planning guide that I have on my website if you need help with that, and I will see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.